近未来の地球。かつては多様な生物が共存している緑豊かな惑星だった。しかし度重なる戦争と環境破壊により氷河期が到来。人類は地下への大規模移住を余儀なくされた。長く続いた氷河期の終わりとともに、人類は地上を元の緑豊かな惑星へと復元する計画を開始。同時期、謎の彗星の落下というアクシデントが起こるものの、復元計画は順調に進められた。そして人類は再び地上で暮らすことができる環境を取り戻したのだった。それから数百年、ロボット工学の分野で名を馳せる天才少年ジェイソン・フラドニック。彼はある日、見たこともない生物を発見する。どの資料にも情報がない生物に好奇心を刺激されたジェイソンは、その生物をフレッドと名付け調査を始めるが、ふとした拍子に逃げられてしまう。フレッドを追いかけたジェイソンは、突如出現した謎の穴とそこに飛び込むフレッドを目撃する。不思議な現象に驚きながらも、フレッドを追って穴に飛び込んだジェイソンは、たどり着いた地下深くの洞窟で一台の車両を発見するのだった。ソフィア3と刻まれたその車両は、彼の登場を促すようにコックピットを開ける。ジェイソンはフレッドを連れ戻すためソフィア3に乗り込み、冒険へと旅立つのだった。地下でうごめく謎の存在を知らずに。
Hello, this is Dr. J here with the Let's Play Blaster Master Zero Trilogy Metafight Chronicle. Hope I got that title correct. A little bit of housekeeping before we jump into the game. If you don't care about the housekeeping, you can just skip ahead to the gameplay. You may notice that this has voice acting, and the version of the game that you have played probably didn't have voice acting. Well, it's because a special trilogy collection of this game was released, which added Japanese voice acting, as well as comes with all the DLC for the first two games bundled into it, and that is what I am playing. I have played the first and second games back when they first came out, so quite a number of years ago at this point, which means that there's a lot about them I don't remember. I never played the third one because I didn't even know that a third game existed until recently. I am planning to play all three games in the trilogy. It's not quite going to be a blind playthrough for the first two, although it will be close to blind in places, because there's a lot I don't remember after so long. The playthrough of the third game will be completely blind. Other bit of housekeeping, I would just like to briefly discuss that Blaster Master, the franchise, has some kind of messed up canon. By messed up, I mean interesting changes were made to it when it was brought over to the West from Japan. In Japan, it was known as Chosenki Metafight, and it had a completely different plot from what got localized into English. The plot in the Japanese version was that an evil space emperor named, I think, Goez was trying to conquer the galaxy, and he conquered a planet known as Sophia 3. So in the Japanese version, it was not the tank that was called Sophia 3, it was the planet that got conquered by Goez. And you control a soldier who is piloting a tank called the Metal Attacker, which was developed as a last-ditch effort to try to free Sophia 3 from Goez's rule. All of that got completely thrown out the window when the game was brought over to the West as Blaster Master, and they changed the plot to there is a kid named Jason who finds a weird frog, makes it his pet, names it Fred. Fred jumps into a hole, and Jason follows Fred into the hole and finds a tank, and also for some reason there's this giant underground labyrinth full of monsters, and the game begins. Obviously, between the two of those, the Japanese plot is a bit more serious and credible, and the Western one is kind of just ridiculous. Inti Creates, when they made their remake of Blaster Master 0, 1, 2, and 3, as you can see, here they're kind of using a variant of the Western canon for the game, although they've made a variety of tweaks and changes to try to make it a little bit less ridiculous. As we will see, however, as the trilogy progresses, they're going to mix in elements from the Japanese version of the canon and kind of combine the Western and Japanese canon into a single story. They also are going to pull in a character named Eve, who never appeared in the original game, but I guess there was a series of books called Worlds of Power, which were like a combination of children's novellas together with game hints that were published by Nintendo, and the Worlds of Power book for Blaster Master introduced a character named Eve, who I guess sort of became a companion character to Jason as he explored the monster-filled underground labyrinth. And Inti Creates decided to also mix Eve into the canon, and she's going to be a major character in the trilogy. So, with all that explanation and housekeeping out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. This slot at the top was my original clear of the game when I played it years ago. This one down here is from a test recording I did. So we're going to start a new one. By the way, if you're not familiar with Blaster Master, it's a cult classic from the original Nintendo era. Now, because I'm old, I actually played the original on an actual Nintendo. And the reason it's a cult classic is because it combines side-scrolling platformer So it's really cool that we get Japanese voice acting. It is really quiet compared to the music, though, and I don't think I can independently change the voice volume and the music volume. So, well, a little bit of a bummer, but there doesn't appear to be anything I can do about it, that the voices are sometimes going to be really quiet compared to the music. Sorry about that. Blame the game developers for not getting their sound balance right, and not giving an option to independently change the voice volume and music volume. We'll just make do. Even with that, it's pretty cool actually playing the game with voice acting. But yeah, Blaster Master is a cult classic that was really popular because it combined this side-scrolling gameplay you see here with the tank, the platforming gameplay, with once we get out of our tank and go into dungeony areas on foot, it becomes overhead gameplay. And what was really cool is that unlike a lot of games that mix fundamental gameplay types, Blaster Master did both of them really, really well. And so that was a pretty neat thing. And getting to play this remake is good times. Also, I'm doing terrible and taking enormous amounts of unnecessary damage. Okay, there we go. You'll have to, since I'm very rusty at this game, you'll have to forgive some sketchy gameplay and...
なんでソフィアはフレッドの信号を受信できるんだろう。この機体についてはまだまだわからないことだらけだな。
What was I saying? I forgot because the voice acting started and I don't want to talk over it. Alright, well anyway, you can hop out of your tank, out of the Sophia 3. Yeah, the tank was called Metal Attacker in the Japanese version, which is kind of a silly name. I guess you could say it's very literal. It is made out of metal and it attacks. That is true. There we go. Get wrecked, you horrible monster. Oh, wow. This is quite the subterranean civilization. We appear to be, like, hundreds of feet above the ground on some kind of floating island. Are you sure this counts as subterranean? I mean, I guess if it's underground, technically it's subterranean. Yeah, I do like how Inti Creates kind of combined all these different contradictory canons into one, and also fleshed it out to try to help it make a little more sense and be a little bit less ridiculous. Oops, didn't mean to leave. I think that's pretty cool. And it's a pretty cool setting. Alright, nice. Now our gun power should increase as we get pickups, and we'll be able to cycle through more powerful versions of our gun. Right now we just kind of have a pathetic little pea shooter. It seems more powerful in the side-scrolling area, actually. It has better range. Alright, let's hop back in our tank. Yeah, this is quite the underground civilization. There's like this gigantic forest and huge floating islands hundreds of feet above the ground. It's a really darn cool setting. Okay, now we're in more of a cavernous area. In the westernized version of the original game, there's really no explanation whatsoever as to what all this was. It was just you're trying to find your pet frog Fred. He jumped in a hole. You go down the hole, and what the crap is all this? No explanation. At least in the original Japanese version, it's like, well, you're on an alien planet, Sophia 3. Although it seemed like it was basically humans, but I mean, obviously it's not Earth. But it seems like it was basically inhabited by humans. Now that said, the Japanese setting didn't necessarily make complete sense either, because the second level in the game, both versions of the game, because they didn't really change the levels much for the Western version, they only made like a couple really small changes, is like this weird Castlevania-esque castle thing. And considering the sci-fi setting, that's a little odd. The setting for the second level is completely changed for the remake, as we'll see, into something that makes more sense. Okay, I'm just walking over spikes and taking damage. Looks like we have our first level of gun upgrade. Oh, and it automatically selected it for us. Okay, so our gun is slightly more powerful now. Yeah, I really enjoyed this game as a kid, the original version. The combination of Metroidvania-esque side-scrolling gameplay and then these overhead areas, and both of them being really fun. Man, that was wild. Okay, we have a lot more range on this version of our gun. And I think that Inti Creates did a fantastic job with the remake, and I am super stoked about replaying these games after having not played them since they first came out, and having never played the third one. That's going to be really cool. Blaster Master is also famous for having a fantastic soundtrack, as you can hear. Pretty decent chance if you're watching this video you already know most or all of what I'm saying, but just for any viewers who don't, I'm giving all these explanations. And also I just think this is all really interesting trivia. Alright, so that thing is totally invulnerable to our shots. A lot of freaky mutants down here. Seems like some pretty messed up stuff has been growing in the abandoned subterranean civilization since it was abandoned. Yeah, I've really been in the mood for old school platforming action lately. I most recently played Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon, both 1 and 2, and that was super fun. And now I am eager to continue the old school platforming action with the Blaster Master Zero Trilogy Metafight Chronicle. Ow, ow, ow. Okay, have we been in here? I've lost track already. With all the commentating, I'm not keeping very good track of my navigating. Okay, no, this is new. Really creative enemy designs in this game as well. Now, one way that this is a lot more forgiving than the original is in the original, every time you took damage, your gun power would decrease. So actually hanging on to a gun that didn't suck was incredibly difficult. And that is not true here. Alright, we've already gotten a lot of levels of gun power. Alright, so that's kind of a shotgun. Alright, that is a rapid fire. That's a shield. Alright, that shoots some kind of slow-moving explosive lightning thing. And that's a flamethrower. Alright, I think right now I like the rapid fire the best. I'll save some wear and tear on my tendons, not having to mash that button so much. And be able to just hold it down. Yeah, a lot of weird mutants in here. I guess these would have been minions of Emperor Goez in the Japanese version. And just kind of unexplained mutants in the Western version. There were some number of sequels to Blaster Master. I don't think I ever played any of them, unless you count this remake as a sequel. Oh, time for our first boss. Drap Trappers, what a name. Are those mines? I actually didn't fight this thing in my practice playthrough, and I don't remember it. I hope I'm hurting it. It dodged my grenade. How dare you? Okay, nope, it's not dead. It just paused to detonate the mines. Alright, I hit it with the grenade that time. Hit it with another one. Oh my gosh, look, it still has enormous amounts of life left. This is going to take forever. Okay, there's got to be a more efficient way to kill this thing. There has to be. Alright, maybe there's a better weapon to use. No, that's going to be hard to use well. Maybe the flamethrower? No, the flamethrower is hard to use well against it too. You have to kind of sit still. This is going to take forever, looking at the amount of life it has. Also, we could die. How about the shotgun? Will the shotgun do more damage to it? Okay, that does a lot more damage. That's way better. Rapid fire was not the answer. Alright, we'll be able to kill it in a reasonable amount of time this way. One down. Oh, we lost quite a bit of gun power here too, didn't we? So maybe you can lose gun power in this version too. It's just more forgiving, I think. Or maybe not, maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm just completely misremembering and I total complete lie. Oh well, we got it. That's what matters. But yeah, we did lose several levels of gun power after all, so we're gonna have to be careful. I guess that makes sense. It would be kind of silly if you could just get the very most powerful version of the gun at the beginning of the game and then never lose gun power. Okay, a sub-weapon that sets a bomb that can be triggered by pressing the sub-weapon button again.
このチップは新しいサブウェポンが使えるようになったみたいだ。
Okay, the English sub-weapon.
相手や状況に合わせてうまく使えば有利に戦えるかもしれないな。
Good advice. Yeah, I completely missed that in my test run. Right, I basically just went through the first area in my test run. Alright, well, I don't think there's anywhere else we can get from there right now. But yeah, like I was saying, it had a number of sequels. Unless you count this trilogy, I don't think I played any of them. I've seen gameplay of them. The second one, which was on Genesis, to me doesn't look that great. It doesn't look like it was really a worthy follow-up. The music isn't nearly as good, and it got rid of the overhead areas in favor of just additional side-scrolling areas. And it's like, well, what's the point? Like, that's literally just the same gameplay again. One of the defining aspects of Blaster Master is it had two completely different modes of gameplay, so that seemed like an odd decision. I think the Game Boy Color, or maybe Game Boy Advance, one or the other, got kind of a sequel/remake, which I didn't play and was probably fine. And then there was a sequel on the PlayStation, which actually, in the sequel, it was the case that Jason and Eve, that sequel decided to also make Eve canon, had gotten married and had kids named Roddy and Elfie, and you controlled Roddy with Elfie as kind of like your operator in that game. And it was on the PlayStation, and it was a 3D game. I can't really judge the gameplay having not played it myself, but it looked to me, from watching some gameplay video of it, like they made a pretty credible attempt to take the Blaster Master gameplay and convert it to 3D. I mean, very, very different kind of game at that point. But just from watching it, it doesn't look terrible. And then there was sort of an attempt at a remake that never really went anywhere, which I think got published by Gaijin Works. But yeah, that one, that remake, like I said, it never really went anywhere. It was kind of a reboot. But I think that's dead in favor of this trilogy. And this trilogy seems a lot better anyway. So it's kind of a brief overview of the franchise. I still think for basic use, I might want the rapid fire. Seems like against certain bosses, the shotgun may be better. It does a lot more damage. We should experiment with that new sub-weapon, probably. Get familiar with it. We've already seen the grenade in action. Press the sub-weapon button to set the bomb, so it's a mine. A remotely detonated mine. That sounds like another thing that could be really good against a boss, but probably not as good for everyday use against trash mobs. Another game that kinda did a really good job combining two separate types of gameplay, also from the NES era, was Guardian Legend. And that combined sort of overhead gameplay a little bit like this, although it had combined... Okay, we lost another level of gun power. So yeah, I was completely lying about not losing levels of gun power when you take damage. My bad. I guess I wasn't really lying so much as mistaken. Those are not the same. Okay, good. We got a level back. Can we detonate that? We can! How about that? Nice signposting by the game, putting that big crack on there. Any Zelda player sees something like that and thinks, ah, a bomb. We'll blast that open nicely. Alright, yeah, I'm gonna have to try to play a little better and not take so... Wait a minute, my gun power is suddenly maxed out. Okay. I think the only version of the gun we haven't seen is the maximum version. Which seems OP as all hell, and I remember that it was super OP in the original version of the game as well. I know I'm kind of geeking out over it a lot, but I really like this depiction of the environment, where it's like we're on this big floating techno island over this vast, rocky, and forested landscape hundreds of feet below. It's just really cool looking. And kind of neat, a neat twist that Inti Creates put on the setting, that it's sort of a high-tech subterranean civilization that humanity created to escape an ice age and survive until the environment was restored. That's pretty neat. Only downside of this weapon is I can't just hold down the button, so I do have to mash it a bit. I do have a bit of RSI, repetitive strain injury, which is like a lesser version of carpal tunnel. Like, not as bad as carpal tunnel, but kind of in the same family. So I don't like having to mash buttons. Alright, so it's a giant brain. You know, Jason is extremely devoted to his pet frog to be going through all this trying to find it. Wow, Mother Brain, we're fighting a final boss level enemy as, like, the first real boss. Obviously, that's a joke. Metroid reference. Alright, so I think that, the grenade might actually be better against this thing. It's the first boss, it's not that hard. The first real boss, that other thing we fought was kind of optional. Pretty sure it was optional anyway. Just gave us a sub-weapon. Nice, okay. I can hear the voice acting a little better now, which is nice. I like the voice actor that they chose for Jason. He doesn't sound like a shonen action hero. He sounds sort of thoughtful and soft-voiced, and I think that's appropriate for the character, so I like that. I mean, wouldn't it have been the, you know, ancient human civilization that was living under here? Seriously, that is some major devotion to your pet frog. I also like to think that he's just exploring it out of fascination for this strange environment, and not exclusively to find his pet frog. That thing's taking some real killing. There we go. Alright, so that's the game giving us a nice hint that we need to move on to the next area. So it's mostly this theme that is so loud that it's kind of hard to hear the voice acting over it. Oh, our shot sure looks more powerful now. Ugh, it's so slow in the water. Got some Metroid-looking things over there, speaking of Metroid and Mother Brain. Good lord, it's slow in the water. Later, I'm pretty sure we'll get an upgrade that lets us swim better, and boy will we need it, because this is a little excruciating. There. Our tank also has sub-weapons. Finally, I can move at a decent speed. Alright, let's see if there's anything else to find in the cavern and forest area before we move on. can't quite jump that high yet. There is a Metroidvania aspect to this game, so we will get upgrades that let us access places we couldn't go before. Well, obviously, that literally just happened. We just got this super shot that is going to let us blow up that enemy that our shots were just deflecting off of before. And wasn't there one over here, too? Yeah, this thing. So we'll see where this leads us. I never checked out this area at all in my test recording. Oh geez, it's intense in here. Holy crap. What is this? I don't even know what it is. Oh, it's life up. Okay. Nice. That was worth it. The way I'm playing, we'll need all the life ups we can get. Alright, whatever. Nice. There's the cave we went into, where we got the... I'll call it remote detonated mine. I think I said it was called ignition, though. Which is a lot less syllables, so I should probably call it that. Ow. The original Blaster Master did have some moments where you would get an upgrade that would let you access a new area, and you'd have to do tons of backtracking, and it wouldn't really give any indication whatsoever of where you had to backtrack to. Which, granted, that's a thing a lot of Metroidvanias do, especially older ones. I think that this game is a little bit more friendly to modern gaming sensibilities, as I recall. So, likely it will signpost us a little bit more when we have to go to new places. Oh my god, this is excruciating. I should just get out and swim. Looks like I'm gonna have to go through here anyway. Alright, I think this is another optional cave. Pretty sure I did go into this one during my test recording. Alright, we don't need that health there, so I'll just circle back. So much good music in these games. But yeah, like I was saying, Guardian Legend is another game that combined two totally different types of gameplay. Overhead gameplay kind of like this. Also a little bit like The Legend of Zelda, kinda, except high-tech. Together with spaceship shooter. Overhead, vertical scrolling spaceship shooter. And like Blaster Master, it did these two different types of gameplay really, really well. So Guardian Legend is another fantastic NES classic. Sadly, it has never received any kind of sequel or remake. There were some Russian guys who were working on an unofficial remake, and it was looking really cool. But a few years ago, they abruptly stopped working on it. Without any public explanation as far as I know. Makes me wonder if they got some kind of cease and desist letter or something. But it's a shame. And I would love it if, like Blaster Master, Guardian Legend were to get a remake someday. Maybe by Inti Creates, because Inti Creates does great making games like this. 1000 Vios. Alright, we just have to fight a crapload of these guys. Not much to it, really. Part of me almost wants to switch to the rapid fire, just so I don't have to mash the buttons so much. It is less powerful, though. Quite a bit less powerful, so maybe that's not a good idea. What about the spread shot? Maybe I'll do the spread shot. Yeah. That seems almost as good as the Helix gun, as I'll call it, and I don't have to mash the button quite so much. Do-do-do. Man, I love when studios make games that have this old school feel, but with somewhat more modern design sensibilities, so they don't rely quite so hard on just being ridiculously unfairly difficult to make it take a long time to complete, but just rely more on having more content to get good gameplay time out of it, while still having that old school feel. It's like it's a combination of nostalgia, but also having improved gameplay at the same time. Okay, so that's a Sophia sub-weapon upgrade. Nice. We may really appreciate having that, I think. Alright, let's just try to swim through this nonsense. Destroy the ones that get in our way. Honestly, I should have swam further because it is a lot faster than the Sophia. Alright, so let's switch to Sophia's sub-weapon to this Thunderbreaker. Ow. Little bug enemies are always so annoying, no matter what game you're playing. Got him. Alright, on to the second area. Almost. A lot of the first area has a design that is very similar to, and in some places identical to, the opening area in the original game. I don't think that's going to continue to be the case, so I don't remember the original enough to say with any certainty. Now entering Area 2.
ここが居住エリア。森林エリアと違ってかなりボロボロだけど、まさかここにもミュータントが。この先は注意して進んだ方が良さそうだ。受信した信号の強度は画面に表示されている。これを辿ってみよう。
Alright, like I said, in the original game, this was actually like a Castlevania-like castle area. Which was cool, but didn't really make a whole lot of sense no matter what version of the game you were playing. So they replaced it with an abandoned residential area, which makes a lot more sense with the setting that they've established here, so that's kind of neat. Well, having cleared the first area, that's going to do it for now. I am really excited to be playing through the Blaster Master Trilogy Metafight Chronicle with Japanese voice acting added. Hopefully you will join me for the next part as we begin exploring the residential area. I'll see you then.